Hey guys, so in a couple of videos before, I was talking about the feint run and how Messi dribbles with a certain flair. So just to go over it, let me play this clip. So as you see as Messi goes, you see his non-dribbling foot crisscrosses in, and his knee and ankle kind of turn out, and as a result, that shoulder drops. And another thing I want to mention, I've practiced this even though I didn't really make a video about this, but as he touches the ball, he's going a little fast, so he sometimes takes a step on the ground between touches. But the crisscrossed foot in, and that shoulder naturally drops, and as he touches the ball, generally see that hip does turn. I've experimented not turning that hip as well as turning it, but I'm quite confident that you're supposed to turn the hip out. And if you can, maybe make like a slight feint with your dribbling foot, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you have to read the defender. Sometimes he's like if you see him coming, almost starting to come with you, you make that shoulder drop and maybe even crisscross a little bit more and try to feint a little bit this way to make him convinced to go this way to open the space here. But I think mostly, you just turn your hips and then touch the ball and continue to run, and then again, crisscross that non-dribbling foot into the near towards the middle or even to the other side there, while turning the ankle out there, and then you can also drop your shoulder. One thing I might have noticed, dropping your shoulder and keeping that shoulder drop tilted like this. It really depends on how much you crisscross. If you crisscross heavier, generally that shoulder it remains tilted even as you hit with your dribbling foot. But if you don't crisscross as much, a lot of times it's even. Like it'll end up tilted when you put your jaw dribbling foot on the ground, and then as you touch the ball and turn your hips there, it's a bit more even. Also, what typically Messi kind of cradles the ball as he touches with his dribbling foot as he turns his hip. So, see what I mean? Let's look at this clip here. So this is kind of like the feint run here. You see how his non-dribbling foot kind of is close to his other knee, more towards the center of his body. And then as he hits the ball, his hips do turn a bit. And you see, like, a lot of times it's, kind of like this area of the boot. It varies too, but I think the main idea is, as you turn your ankle out. I always wonder why, but I think naturally you turn it out as you turn your hip as you hit the ball, so it makes it easier. Because before I wasn't too sure why he would do it, but I think that's the main reason. It's a lot easier to dribble this way as you kind of turn your ankle out as you hit the ball. And before what I would do was kind of chop my foot down. It depends. Like if you have a defender near you, sometimes you need to quickly get on the move. But typically, if you're going in the line and there's no immediate threat, a lot of times Messi kind of almost hits back a little bit as he turns his ankle and kind of cradles the ball rather than hits it directly. It's very delicate. It hits it, kind of turns and then comes back, rather than what I was doing, chopping down or nudging it forward. So these are a couple moves that result from the feint run. First is these all result from a shallow feint first, and then either another feint going to the side, or doing an inside cut after the shallow feint and going to the other side. Or what we'll see in a bit is kind of doing a skip feint, depending how the defender's positioned. So kind of this, I already talked about doing a double feint, but this is a lot more controlled and better, and you can do it either quicker or a bit slower depending on how the defender's positioned. So during a game, a lot of times I'm not really thinking about what move I'm going to do. The defender will be here. I'm mostly looking at his legs and how they're angled and whether one's off balance and where his hips are turned. And I'm just focused on that rather than what move I'm going to do. But from doing that, a few moves resulted from that I hadn't really done naturally before. And after doing that, I played a few pickup games, but the feeling was still there. So I try to really memorize it and so I can replicate it because it was very useful in many situations. So see what I mean? Let's look at this clip here. So I'm trying to do that feint run, crisscross that non-dribbling foot, kind of cradle that ball with my dribbling foot, and as I turn my hips. So here, this is what I kind of try to do a feint here. It's just a shallow feint. this is what I call like a skid feint because I'm on turf, and when I do it, like I'm kind of near the ground, and I really slide my foot really forward, so it barely touches the ground, and it almost like feels like I'm sliding, and you hear a skid, at least on turf. So um, the reason I did this because a lot of times like the defender like he'll try to watch you, and then like as soon as you put your like non-dribbling foot here, and then you're about to take the touch, they kind of come a little bit closer, and I think that's a good time to like try to throw a feint and see how he reacts. He might not do that. He might just keep coming back. So I'll explain that a bit later. But if you notice, the feint after the first shallow feint, it's quite quick. So, I did this just depending on the situation. So sometimes, you'll do a shallow feint here, and then, the defender's slightly off balance, and then you want to quickly do the feint and not waste time, so you can get attack the open space. I didn't do it here, but sometimes I find this happens a lot more with pickup games because a lot of people tend to lunge in. But so you do your shallow feint here. Many times you don't need to do a second feint, like the defender will be off balanced enough, so you can just take a touch to the other side immediately without doing another feint. Or if it's more comfortable, you can just do a quick skip without really doing a feint. It's just to propel you to go to the other side. Now this clip is quite a bit better in my opinion, so you'll see why. Okay, so, like before, I'm trying to do that feint run, turn my hips as I touch the ball and cradle the ball with my dribbling foot and crisscross the non-dribbling foot as much as I can, and, see dropping that shoulder and doing the same thing again, turning my hips and cradling the ball. So here's where I kind of do this that skid feint. Kind of want to mention, like, usually, like, I'm anticipating the defender might like lunge in just a little bit when I get to this part. So normally I would jump a bit higher, just do a normal run, but a lot of times I might just almost do a very small hop and kind of like almost like fall forward onto my non-dribbling foot to kind of like skid onto well, in this case the turf, and you can really hear that skid. So here it is here. Now I like this because like not only do I get that feint there, it's not like all of a sudden since I'm skidding, it's kind of a lot more controlled. And then here I can like land on my foot, and then I can just like time it exactly. So sometimes the defender, like if they're really good, they'll like not lunge or really far right away. They'll kind of like pause, and then you can kind of see they're off balance a bit, and then you can like do the next heavier feint there and go to the other side. So I kind of just want to pay attention. You see, like after I do the like first skid feint here, you see, I kind of like pause a little bit there because I'm trying to anticipate or just trying to time when the defender might be off balance. But at any time I could just quickly go off the side. You're not stuck there. Like I just find this gives you a lot more options in case he decides to stay put a little bit more. So just to play it again, just try to watch that little brief pause. So funnily enough, like after I do that once or twice, like all the other defenders take notice, and a lot of times after I do the skid feint, they'll immediately try to like position themselves that way because they think, oh, I always want to cut to the outside of my foot. But this is the benefit of doing a skid feint. Not only is it really good, but you can do it very controlled, so you can time it right. So here's doing an inside cut after the skid feint. So like before, doing that feint run, as I come here, I think, yeah, that's where I do my first skid feint. Don't jump too high because a lot of times I anticipate the defender just lunging a little bit at this part here. So, and I'm a little close to him, so I can just kind of skid my foot here really aggressively. And then here, see there's like that little brief pause. I'll play it later, but it's a little bit pause so you can control when he jumps there. Sometimes they stay put a little bit, and then they see me positioned there, and they saw what happened earlier. Then they jump, and then he can just, time that inside cut right when he goes to the other side. And here's me playing again. Just pay attention to that brief pause. Yeah, and like before, anytime I could immediately go quickly right after the first feint, but I like doing it this way because it's more controlled. Here's another variation. So a lot of times, sometimes when you do a skid feint, sometimes they might even back up a little bit. So I think you can let the ball roll a bit more forward, and then you can do what I call the skip feint, where you kind of like wrap your foot around the ball and do it like a skip with your other leg. So as I come here and then I do that skip feint here. So a lot of times I'm expecting them to either lunge one way or the other, but sometimes they stay put or even back up a little bit. So it's a timing thing. It depends also how fast the ball's running forward, but I might let it come a little bit closer, and then have my non-dribbling foot here, and then I skip to the other side like that, and then go to the other side.